Office.
I'm Gail Rolfe, for those of you that may not know. Sometimes I don't even know I'm Gail Rolfe. Thank you all for being here. The morning after, waking up the next day after Gina's passed to a more peaceful place. My first conversation in the morning after Gina's passing was with Alexa. I asked her to play Adele radio. In this order, she played Say What You Need to Say, Fools Rush In, perfect music for the moment. Suddenly, no Adele, silence. Was Adele mad at me? I asked Adele to play Adele radio once more, Alexa to play Adele radio once more, and Chasing Pavements came on. This was the song that we first heard on the airwaves while traveling in Gina's favorite country, Italy. Then I went to turn on my cell phone, and there was a screensaver photo of Paris, France, our other favorite place to travel in the world. Next, I poured the dog food into my fruit bowl. I kid you not. I walked out our front door, and just then I noticed the very first bloom in our garden. It was a white rose. It struck me that when she had had heart failure during our 2011 trip to Paris, I took the time to go to our favorite bar, Au Trois Maillettes, where they played music and sang into the wee hours of the night. And there was the rose lady we had seen on many trips before. That night, I bought Gina a white rose to bring to her the next day in the hospital. I drove to the post box to get our mail, and there in the parking lot were two cars, each having Lakers license plates. Guess who loved the Lakers? It wasn't me. After returning home, I began going through drawers and bags of stuff. I came across Gina's hair pick, her comb. The one she wore when she was the club advisor for the Black Student Union at Fairfax High School in the early 1960s. She had a huge afro and was proud of it. This reminded me of her mantra, as you just saw, justice and liberty for all, and how she always gave voice to the historically oppressed. Calls, cards, Facebook messages, text messages came pouring in. Over the next few weeks, well over 1,000 communications, donations, and well-wishers. I was overwhelmed and could not keep up with it all. I learned a lot about both Gina and myself in terms of how the world viewed us. Ari Ruiz and many others said, "Oh, Gina was always so nice to me. No matter what the situation was, she never raised her voice. She was so humble. Gail, you were the general. You were direct and in my face. You were always up front, and when I messed up, you always let me know it." Beverly Davis, her colleague at Fairfax High School and carpool ride sharing partner. While carpooling, she told us that she would never ride in a parade. She sponsored the Harvey Milk Club before Project 10 started, and she was seeing a therapist to practice saying the L word. From countless others, she was fearless. From Noah Brayman, one of our scholarship recipients, she greeted each person with a warm smile, a big hug, and a huge heart. So looking back at her fearlessness, I happened to dig up the letter from President Bill Clinton. She wrote to him with concern about gays in the military and what his stance was on the policy. Dear Virginia, this is dated February 4th, 1993. Dear Virginia, and this is typed on a typewriter and signed by the President. Thank you for sharing your views with me regarding the ban on homosexuals in the nation's military. I believe that people should be judged by their conduct, not by their status. Stricter rules of conduct on sexual behavior for all military personnel are at the heart of a sensible solution. My belief is that we don't have a person to waste. I am working with the Joint Chiefs of Staff and the military services with the Congress and others concerned to design a policy which will ensure equality and fairness while persevering the unity and preparedness of our military. I appreciate your views and support. Sincerely, Bill Clinton. She also wrote to the Archdiocese, Roger Mahoney, and got a letter from him too, which is framed and on our desk at home. Just a few days ago, I came across her life story that she wrote for her family, Reflections. Clipped to the manuscript was this cartoon. She was uncontrollable as a child, fully spoiled by her parents, always having her way, never being told no. A tradition she carried on with her children. When her sister Dee Dee came along, things didn't go well, like Gina telling Dee Dee to put her finger in the electric socket. Gina was soon shipped off to a ranch in Lancaster for a year where she got to ride horses and be the cowgirl that she always wanted to be. Before I talk about Virginia Uribe, or as she preferred to be called, Gina, but born Marilyn, please don't ask, and don't buy an airline ticket. I need to tell you about me in order to put our relationship into its proper context. Different, queer, faggot, homosexual. Those were the only words that I knew to describe me as I grew into my conflicted childhood, adolescence, and adulthood. My mother's word for me was enigma. These words stuck with me day in and day out, morning, noon, and night. I knew I didn't fit in like the rest of the friends and schoolmates I had. Every day from childhood into early adulthood, I woke up wanting to put an end to my life. Many years later, I learned that I was not alone in my feelings and that I wasn't the only one like me. I was a teacher at Huntington Park High School when I heard about this amazing woman who started Project 10, an out lesbian, a teacher, a counselor at Fairfax High School, Virginia Uribe. I had never heard of a teacher who was out as a lesbian or as a gay teacher, let alone a teacher who would actually talk openly and publicly about LGBT issues in the educational environment. She was a celebrity to all of us who were people just like me. I was a different kind of a teacher, one who was closeted for years and one who lived the same lie millions of other people were living, a person who could not be authentic. Project 10 was created in 1984, the first dropout prevention program in the nation for LGBTQ students. Attacks on the program occurred in 1988 at the LAUSD school board. I spoke for the first time on behalf of the program in a public forum, and it was the first time I ever laid eyes on Virginia Uribe, but I had still not met her. The Board of Education unanimously supported the Project 10 program. Warren Steinberg, the principal at Fairfax High School, fielded a number of calls, often angry, by parents, and his response was, "We are public educators and we serve all children, including our gay and lesbian children." Here, I kid you not, here are the letters that Warren Steinberg saved during his tenure at Fairfax High School that he received from parents and community, some good, some awful. Fast forward. It was Jackie Goldberg, LAUSD School Board President, who first mentioned my name to Gina. I heard that Jackie was this really liberal school board member, and having never met her, I approached her with two separate incidents from two separate schools. Apparently, she was impressed with me, the closeted lesbian, so I thought, Later on, I learned that she told her friend Virginia Uribe, quote, "Keep your eyes open for a woman named Gail Rolfe." Mind you, there were thousands of teachers in the LUSD. The second most influential person in establishing our relationship with Gina was her therapist, Susan Schreiber. After having finally met Gina, we will go back to that, Gina said to Susan shortly after her breakup with her former tumultuous relationship was, "But Susan, Gail has no drama. Are you sure I should go out with her?" Susan's response, "Gina, don't you think you've had enough drama in your life?" And now I am here more than 30 years later to talk about her life and legacy. We finally did meet for the first time when she was invited to speak to my health classes at Huntington Park High School. It was the height of the HIV/AIDS epidemic, and my students wanted to know why so many gay men were dying from this disease. Too busy that year to come to speak, she came the following year. I started taking professional development classes from her and went to the Friends of Project 10 mailing parties. The next year, she did come and speak to my classes, and she actually received a standing ovation from my 9th grade students. It was 1989 when we had our first non-date. She was very nervous about the idea of dating. Gina was too nervous to actually date. She simply got into relationships. It was the same year that she received her first of many honors from the Southern California Women for Understanding, the video you just saw. It was the year that she was Grand Marshal of the LA Pride Parade. I was too chicken to ride on the float with her. But in 1990, she was the Grand Marshal for the Long Beach Pride Parade. I proudly rode with her on the float along with members of my family. To put it bluntly, I just didn't come out of the closet. I was shot out of a cannon. Nerves rattled me when I went to introduce her to my parents at a dinner that I made for all of us. I made Gina do all the talking. My mom and dad both fell instantly in love with her, and when my brother-in-law Richard met her, and mind you, he always had the last word in those days, his comment was, "She can look you straight in the eye, not say a word, and tell you that you're full of bullshit." And that's true, that is the truth. At that moment, I knew Gina would be part of our family for the rest of our lives. Take my eyes off the paper and I can't see anything. Later, my parents met lovely Emma, Gina's mother. Again, it was instant love, and now our family was complete for the very first time. Those were my mother's words, and I was age 42. Through our nonprofit, Friends of Project 10, we produced the Make It Real Conference, the LGBTQ Youth Prom, the Models of Excellence Scholarship Program, and the Models of Pride Conference, all while working as teachers. In looking back, we often asked ourselves, how did we manage this? And to this day, Gina and I could not answer that. Gina was more than a teacher and a counselor. She was a mother to Catherine, aka Kim, and Mark, and grandmother to Richard and Sari, and sister to Dee Dee. And she was aunt to Mike, Patrick, and Kathleen. Her mother, Emma, had a particularly special place in Gina's heart. Suddenly, I had this whole new family who joined my family to make us whole. Gina and I had a rich life together filled with many friends and family. We traveled all 7 continents, making wonderful relationships along the way. Gracie, our dog, had a very special place in Gina's heart, never leaving her side through the many downs Gina experienced with her health struggle. Gina fought and fought until she could fight no longer. She finally had to give it up. To quote her, "I will fight this fight for gay and lesbian rights until I have the last breath in me." And folks, I want you to know that she did. In closing, on this day of this event, I opened my t-shirt drawer to pick out a shirt to work in today. And this is what I saw in that drawer. And I didn't arrange the drawer, I simply opened it. I thank all of you for your love, your kindness, and your support. You are an amazing group of people, and to those who could not be here today, you've not been forgotten. This event will be posted to YouTube and on our website. A special shout out to all of the volunteers, to Billy and Brian Bichkovitz, who did the gorgeous decorations today, to Mike Brass, Gina's nephew, for coordinating the sound and audio visuals, to Min Tai for his time and love in putting together the video presentation, and a special appreciation to my great niece, Maya Goldroop, right here in the front row, folks, who 2 days after Gina passed away sent me the rendering of this beautiful drawing that you see on the shirts and in the foyer. This drawing came from our 2015 fundraiser, which was the last fundraiser we held in our home where Gina could be present. So I thank you all very, very much.
In 1984, Dr. Virginia Uribe, a teacher at Los Angeles' Fairfax High School, witnessed an incident of harassment against a gay student, which disturbed her so deeply that she decided to take action. That year, she founded Project 10 and has been saving lives and changing attitudes ever since.
The vision of Project 10 is that gay, lesbian, bisexual, transgender students will be able to go to school in a safe and respectful environment. It seems like not much to ask. It's what we ask of education for all of our young people, but that's very difficult to achieve for our gay and lesbian young people. I think that what fuels me is anger or a sense of injustice. I just cannot stand the things I see happening to these young people for no other reason other than their sexual orientation. It's not like they have committed a crime. When I first started the program back in 1984, even I was a little hesitant to call it the gay and lesbian program. I mean, I had to work through my own homophobia about that. Somebody suggested that I call the program Project 10 after Kinsey's very often repeated statistics that 10% of the population was more or less homosexual most of their lives. So I just adopted the name Project 10. We started out with maybe 6 students, and inside of 2 or 3 months we had 30 students that were meeting once a week. The minute other people in other high schools started hearing that we were doing something for gay, lesbian youth, we started getting phone calls, and so there was just sort of like an automatic development of this program to other high schools.
In 1988, 4 years after Project 10 was founded, the Traditional Values Coalition launched an attack against the program, attempting to withhold all state funding for the Los Angeles Unified School District if the district didn't agree to immediately put a stop to Project 10.
Here we're trying to work to keep these kids in school and to keep them from killing themselves, and suddenly people are attacking us for that and saying these perfectly dreadful things like we were trying to recruit young people into a life of homosexuality and we're trying to give them all AIDS, and the attacks didn't make any sense to me. I was very naive about this. I didn't really know what to do, and so I just kept repeating what I thought I was trying to do, which was to keep kids in school and to keep them from killing themselves and to serve a need that had not been met. And they just kept saying how terrible I was.
The conflict resulted in a day-long hearing in Sacramento with over 80 speakers from both sides testifying. In the end, the school district reaffirmed its support of Project 10, and the Traditional Values Coalition was defeated. Ironically, the publicity generated by their campaign to defeat Project 10 actually resulted in huge rewards for the program.
We got tremendous letters of support, letters that were many of them very compelling in the stories that people revealed about themselves. And the other thing that happened was that people started sending us money.
So much money, in fact, that Dr. Uribe formed a nonprofit organization called the Friends of Project 10 to support and supplement the work of the program.
As time has evolved, we see that there really isn't a whole lot of money that the district is going to cough up to give to this program. And through the donations, we're able to provide, do programs and projects that the district won't pay for.
In 1998, Dr. Uribe retired from the program in order to run the Friends of Project 10 full-time. Her replacement was her long-term partner and Project 10 board member, Gail Rolfe, who had already been deeply involved in the program for 10 years.
I could see that through my own teaching experience. The gay kids were dropping out of school. The gay kids were running away. The gay kids were attempting suicide. Even when I started up my support groups, the average student had already attempted suicide 3 times by the time they got into high school. And these are kids that either identified as gay or lesbian or they were struggling with their sexuality. I knew this was a serious problem. My typical day goes like this. I get to work and the phone starts ringing and the adrenaline starts going, and all I can tell you is that I operate totally on adrenaline. I just work straight through, nonstop. The phone doesn't stop, emails don't stop, the problems don't stop. It just goes on and on and on.
As Project 10's only paid staff person, Gail is responsible for the training of all Project 10 coordinators in each school and is the district's troubleshooter when problems arise involving LGBT and questioning students.
As simple and silly as this may sound, one would think that if a teacher hears somebody call another person faggot, they would know how to respond to that. But so often, those comments go ignored. When the teachers allow for that verbal harassment, it creates a very distrustful relationship. Those students don't trust the teacher, and ultimately, the environment in the classroom becomes so uncomfortable and so unsafe that oftentimes kids just stop coming to that class. And ultimately, if it's a pervasive thing that goes on throughout the school, they just simply stop coming to school.
Some of the strongest testimonials in support of the program come from Project 10 students themselves. We spoke with Jesse, Angie, and Josh about the first time they went to a Project 10 support group meeting in their respective high schools.
I thought, what am I going to see in this room? A group of freaks or what? And it was completely the opposite. It was young people that were gay, lesbian, bisexual, and I couldn't believe it because that was the first time I had ever met young people that identified with being either gay, lesbian, or bisexual, and it was amazing to me, but it made me feel good.
A good friend of mine said, "Hello, my name is John and I'm gay." And I was so taken back by this because I had never been able to say my name and immediately after say I was gay. It was just unheard of. It was so uncomfortable for me to say, "Hi, I'm Josh and I'm gay." And for me to see that was the immediate change and realizing how comfortable I could now be with being gay.
It was great. It was empowering just to see them be themselves and be out and feel good about it because I was feeling miserable at that time.
We had meetings every week, and it was emotional every time, and we laughed so much, and we cried together. We had so much fun that we laughed until we cried.
I don't think anybody enjoys, having gum in their hair during lunchtime or having rocks thrown at you after you're walking, home or to school. Going to my counselor and saying, I'm getting harassed in school, I'm getting rocks thrown at me, I'm getting all these different things, and her saying, you brought it upon yourself, completely cut the trust that I ever had in a teacher or in a counselor or an administrator. And worst of all, I couldn't tell my parents all the discrimination I was experiencing at school. So that made things even more difficult.
We gave each other advice on everything, relationships, family, dealing with parents, and, helping each other out just through everything.
Project 10 is finally a group where a student could go and ask questions and receive answers and information that will link them up to other students, and essentially knowledge is power.
The Friends of Project 10 continue to sponsor a number of larger events open to students from across the state. At the Models of Pride conference each year, 500 young people come together to attend workshops and to meet others like themselves. And the lesbian and gay prom, seen here in the 1993 documentary Live to Tell, brings 350 LGBT youth together to celebrate in a safe and affirming environment.
From the perspective of the kids, there's just such energy, such excitement, and such a sense for them that they have a safe place to really express who they are. The boys come with the boyfriends, the girls come with the girlfriends, and many of the young people even come by themselves. They feel that safe and that comfortable knowing they will be with their own kind and be accepted and not be harassed. It's just a wonderful freedom of expression and a sense that they can be in a safe place and have a darn good time.
One of the program's leading advocates is the president of the Los Angeles Board of Education, Caprice Young.
If you don't feel safe at school, you're not going to learn at school because you're not going to be thinking about what you're studying, you're going to be thinking about whether or not you're safe. And Project 10 gives kids a place to confront the questions that they have themselves about their sexuality and their personal identity in an environment that's safe and supportive and allows them to be whoever they are.
I've had many friends that that started going to Project 10 depressed, suicidal, and I mean now their grades are all up, and you find people there that you can have things in common with, and it's hard to find it if you're out on your own.
So Project 10 has given me a connection, a group of students that I can share for the rest of my life and become friends and colleagues with. And it has also linked me with other institutions such as Teen Line.
I think Project 10 was the parent, the teacher, the mentor, and also the person that you can trust in. That's what Project 10 meant to me. That's what Project 10 was to a lot of us. And if it wasn't for that, I think a lot of us would have ended up dead. A lot of us would have killed ourselves.
Because of their sexual orientation, so many of them have such an enormous struggle. And I don't see the educational system doing very much for them. And so I guess that anger at that injustice just keeps me going. Because I really feel as long as I have a breath in me, I'm going to be fighting this fight.